The judge that we got had actually never ruled on an adoption case before. We were told we had 2 hours to say goodbye forever to our son. My name is Lauren McAfee, and this is my story. I was born in Oklahoma City, and my parents have 6 kids. I'm the second born, so I have an older brother and I have 4 younger siblings. All of my siblings are biological except for one sister who was adopted internationally. My husband and I met when we were 7 years old. We were best friends for years, and we both ended up going to the same college, and so we dated through college and got married a couple weeks before we started our senior year of college. We wanted lots of kids, and so we had no reason to expect that wouldn't work out, but after a year of trying, we realized, okay, this isn't maybe as easy as we thought it was going to be. And so that kind of began our journey now into infertility and all that that entails. And so we've been now experiencing infertility for nearly 8 years and trying to conceive and have a child biologically and have not been able to. My husband turned 25, and at that dinner, I said, I think we should start considering pursuing adoption. I had felt particularly led to do an international adoption, and so that's the path we started walking towards. And one of the reasons that the adoption process can be so challenging is there are steps in the process that just take time because you're relying on individuals and social workers and government agencies to provide all these approvals, as well as the fact that then if you're doing an international adoption, you're working with a whole nother set of government agencies that have to process things on their end. So we had been pursuing the international adoption process for years and years, and finally the day came when our agency contacted us and said that there was a child that had been matched with our family. So we were given a little bit of information about her and a few pictures. When we got that news, it was like very surreal. A couple months later, 4 months after we got matched with her, traveled to China, and we were in like a conference room and they just brought her in, and it was like, that's our daughter. Like, that's my daughter. And we're family. Born in separate places of the world. It was just beautiful. Totally indescribable. But that was when we became her parents. And so we got to stay in China for a total of 2 weeks. And so our first few weeks of parenting, we were in a foreign country, with a language we don't speak, which was like quite an adventure, and wouldn't have had it any other way. It was super fun. So 7 weeks after we brought our daughter Zion home from China, we were doing some routine medical exams just to, make sure everything looked good and healthy. Through one of those routine exams, they wanted us to do a scan. And so we did a scan, not expecting anything. She didn't have any symptoms of anything. There was just a little thing that was like, oh, let's just check. And so they did a scan and incidentally found that she had a large tumor on her liver. So it was a cancer called hepatoblastoma, a tumor on the liver. They got the scan results back and they called us and they told us, like, you need to go to the emergency room right now. Like, wherever you're at, just drive to the emergency room. It was early enough, thankfully, because of that it hadn't spread. And so she was scheduled for an emergency surgery. So a couple of days later, she had a surgery and they were able to completely remove the tumor. They did want to still do chemotherapy, though, just to make sure all the cancer was gone. So if I were choosing one word to describe her, I say resilience, because she is truly the most resilient child I've ever seen. I mean, not only was she adjusting to new home, new language, new smells, new everything, because she was with us for 7 weeks before we got the cancer diagnosis, but then she was in hospitals and surgery and chemotherapy, and she made everyone that walked in our hospital room smile, and she had a resilience about her that no matter what was hitting her down or knocking her down, she got back up. So Zion went into remission from her cancer in January of 2020, and we knew that we wanted to grow our family, and I loved having so many siblings, and I wanted my kids to have siblings. So we decided to pursue adoption again. There was a birth mother who had seen our profile, and she had some really challenging circumstances in her life, and she knew that she wasn't in a place to parent, and so she made the brave decision to make a plan for her child to be have an adoption plan. So we got to bring home our son, Ezra. We named him Ezra. We brought him home from the hospital. He was precious, and Zion was excited to have a sibling, but also, our whole orbit had been her. And so she was also wrestling with the sharing attention. But we transitioned into a family of 4. We had our daughter and Zion, and then we had our son, Ezra. We had him for a couple weeks before we found out more about what the situation was with the biological parents and what his case would look like. And we found out that there was a chance he would go back to a biological family member. The process then is that it goes to the courts, and the court makes a determination about what to do in each case. And it was completely out of our hands. We were completely reliant on a judge who had never met us, who had never met the birth parents, who had never met our son, to determine the course of our son's life. And at that point, he had been in our home 12 months, and I was his mom. He called me mama. Our daughter was his sister. She knew that was her brother. The judge that we got had actually never ruled on an adoption case before. So he was a new judge to the bench. And this judge decided that our son should go back to a biological family member. And instead of having a transition period, which we were told to expect, to have a transition period of about 7 to 10 days to kind of, both for the sake of the child, for the sake of our family, everyone involved, to help that transition go smoothly, we were told we had 2 hours to say goodbye forever to our son. And so we had to tell our daughter that her brother was going to have to leave. So we had to tell our daughter, Zion, who was 3 at the time, that she had to say goodbye forever to her brother. And then we took our son and handed him over, and haven't seen him since. And we hope that he's safe and loved and cared for. But we don't have any contact. That was how the process happened in our case. And so we're still pursuing adoption now because we do want to continue growing our family, and we had hoped that would have been our son who was with us. But we continue to pray for him. We pray for his family that he's with, because we want him to be cared for. We want his family to succeed, and so we pray for them every day. If you're growing your family through adoption, there are unique challenges. Adoption does not happen without loss. A child that is adopted has lost their first family for whatever reason, and that is something that will be something to process for life. And so how do we care well and be a good and safe environment? So for my husband and I, faith has always been a foundation for us and our beliefs that shape our values. And especially in challenging times like walking through the loss of a child or cancer in our daughter's case, those are seasons that really shake you and who you are. We knew that God was with us through every step, which was a comfort. You don't know if you have resilience until you've walked through the trial. And so to be able to look back and see what we've walked through and that we have, healing and joy and hope on the other side of it, I think only strengthens the resilience, because you see what you've been through and that you made it.
Are you guys happy? You and your family?
We're very happy. We're very happy. Yeah. I think that happiness comes from our choice of where we place our identity. My happiness was not in my identity as a mother. My identity is rooted in my faith and who I believe God created me as. And so for me, that is, I'm a loved child of God, and nothing can take that identity away from me. And even if I walk through pain, I have a loving Father who's with me. So the question of why God would allow hard things to happen certainly has entered my mind a number of times when I'm walking in the pain. And usually it's when I'm placing God from a human perspective. I heard someone describe it one time that trusting God is like having a flashlight, that you're in a dark room and you have a flashlight and you can kind of maybe see like the next step, but you can't see all of the ways that all the path that you have in front of you. But God does. God knows. And having a big view of God helps us to trust Him in His goodness, that He has a plan even when I can't understand it.
Thank you for watching this video. To keep PragerU videos free, consider making a tax-deductible donation.